Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hi everyone and welcome. We're back again with another guest who's most certainly a global impact maker within her own rights. So with that said, let's take a few minutes to introduce her to the show. Now, my guest today is a confidence expert, coach, award-winning speaker, and television commentator who helps business owners and executives to develop the confidence they need to create the professional success they want. Sounds really exciting. I can't wait to hear some more about this. She's the author of Worried Sick: Break Free from Chronic Worry to Achieve Mental and Physical Health, and Find Your Inner Voice, Using Instinct and Intuition Through the Body-Mind Connection. She is also a TEDx speaker whose talk focused on the power of the body-mind connection, and is also the creator of the Your Inner Voice, How Your Body Speaks Its Mind, which is a series of audio tracks for stress reduction. A regular contributor to the Wall Street Journal, she has made appearances as a psychological and communication expert on Oprah.com, CNN, NBC, ABC, the Wall Street Journal Live, and Fox News, along with numerous print, radio, and digital media outlets. Finally, she also conducts presentation and networking skills at many of the large corporate law firms in New York City. And she's here today, ladies and gentlemen, to discuss some of the problems, some of the obstacles, misconceptions, pitfalls, and fears surrounding the individuals and organizations she has a passion around helping the most. So with that said, let's not delay her any further and welcome her to the show, Karol Ward. Karol, are you there, my dear?
I am, and I have to tell you, Stuart, that reading of my introduction was a real confidence booster. That made me feel great.
Well, we're starting off on the right foot then, yeah? Fantastic. Well, you know, you do have accolades as long as my arm, and it sounds like you've been working very, very hard. So I think our listeners have got a real special treat ahead of them today. So with that said, Karol, let's just jump in, and let me just ask you this first question. Could you just briefly describe in your own words, who is your perfect prospect? Who is it that you help, Karol?
I work with a range of people. I work with individuals, business owners, and executives who struggle with inner confidence. And at the same time, I also, because I absolutely love it, speak at organizations and conferences about the very same topic, in addition to psychological topics and wellness topics. So I have a dual part to my business, which is coaching, as I said, the individuals and business owners and executives, and then also speaking to large audiences about confidence and psychological topics.
Mm-hmm. So could you describe let's say one of the outcomes, because I know there are several, but just one of the outcomes that your clients would achieve by working with you?
You know, one of the most specific outcomes is that they just feel more confident in their daily life, that from the time they get up and move out into their world, whether it's raising a family, running a business, or working at a company, that they have inside of them a real solid feeling of self-acceptance and confidence. And from that place, everything that they do or the people that they interact with feels smooth and easy.
Mm. Okay, so in terms of obstacles, Karol, I'm sure there are plenty of obstacles that you come across or that your clients come across that prevent them from finding and building the inner confidence that you've mentioned. Could you just share, let's say, 2 to 3 of those common obstacles that prevent them from achieving their objectives?
Certainly. I think one of the obstacles that I see a lot is a diminishing of expertise. And what I mean by that is that people feel that what they have to offer in terms of expertise is not good enough. They don't feel they have enough longevity in their field, or they feel that somehow that their expertise doesn't reach some impossible standard that they've held themselves to. And because of that, they tend to stay hidden. They don't speak up, they don't share, because they are comparing themselves to other people. And the second obstacle is actually what I call this compare and despair. I don't have enough hours of training. I don't have enough years in the field. I don't feel that where I went to school, or the education that I have, or the life experience that I have is up to a standard that other people have in their life. So both that what they have to offer, that first obstacle, and then that second obstacle is this comparing to other people. And those are the two strongest ones. And, Stuart, I'd say the last one is that people that I work with sometimes don't know how to share their expertise with other people, which sounds funny, right? It's an interesting thing, but they don't know how to speak up at a meeting, or they don't know how to volunteer for the opportunity to present their expertise. So, building a foundation underneath them so that they can address those three obstacles, I find is the most gratifying part of my work.
Now, not being able to share, or not knowing how to share your expertise, that must be so frustrating, because if you've got this God-given gift of being able to solve a specific problem for your clients, the people who you help, the people you have this greatest passion around working with, but you just don't have the capability to share it, to put it out there in a language that makes people understand it. That must be so frustrating.
It is frustrating, and I'll say to people, I'll ask very practical questions. How come you don't feel that you can speak up in a meeting, or why aren't you taking that opportunity to present some aspect of your business? And again, whether you're at a company or someone will get the opportunity to speak in their community, and they won't take the opportunity because they feel that somehow their expertise, they don't know how to share their expertise. And as a psychotherapist and coach, I always say to people, there are three reasons why people get stuck in life. One is fear. One is the lack of support. And the third area is a lack of information. So it's sometimes people don't know how to share their expertise because they just don't know how. They don't know, how do I create a presentation? How do I structure a presentation? How do I speak up in a meeting? They're not necessarily afraid. They just don't have the how to.
Right.
Or as you know from the work that you do, or they just don't have the supportive person next to them going, you can do it.
Exactly.
Let's work on it, right?
Exactly. Karol, I love case studies. Now, you just spoke about you spoke about who you help, right? You help people to gain more confidence. That's an area of expertise that you specialize in, and you just talked about some of the three biggest obstacles. Now, obviously, with keeping client confidentiality in mind, you can't name any people's names, etc. But how have you been able to help your clients overcome some of those obstacles that you just shared? So describe, if you will, a situation in which you've helped a client overcome at least one of those obstacles that you just shared with us, if you could.
I certainly. One of my favorite examples, and as you're right, I'm going to keep some of the information on the private side. One of them actually had to do with a person who was fairly new at a company, but had expertise, meaning they weren't new in their area of business. And there was often a weekly or twice a month a company meeting, a part of their department meeting. And when this person first arrived, when they would walk into this meeting, there were people there who were very familiar with each other, and there was a lot of just jumping into the meeting and throwing out ideas, and it was sink or swim. How people were just aggressively promoting their ideas in the meeting, and the person I was working with had a different style, and they didn't know how to get into that meeting and share their ideas and expertise. Mm. So I talked to them a lot about using transitional sentences so that they didn't feel they had to jump into a cold pool of water and just say, listen to me, I've got this great idea, that they could dovetail on whoever had just spoken. So, for example, Stuart, if you had thrown in an idea in order to help them assert themselves, the person I was working with, in order to help them get into the conversation, they would say something like, Stuart has a great point, but I have another idea.
Right.
So that they felt that they could use what was in front of them as a way to ease into the conversation, which matched their style. So you can find out different ways to participate by matching who you are and your conversational style or your personality style. You don't have to do it like everybody else, which might make you feel uncomfortable or odd.
So if you're someone who's, let's say, introverted, that would be an ideal method to use, would it not?
It would be a great way to assert ideas. And the other thing I suggested to this person is that if that felt, even if that felt overwhelming, to schedule time with whoever is the decision maker, whoever's in charge, for one-on-one meetings to start to get the ideas out. And that does two things. One, it gets your expertise out, which it did for this person. And the second thing that it did was, as they started to get the feedback of, oh, that's a great idea, it started to build their confidence so that they could take that positive experience they had with their supervisor one-on-one, and that would help them then speak up in the meeting as well.
Perfect. Thanks so much for sharing that, Karol. I just want to move ahead now and speak about misconceptions. What are the kind of popular misconceptions that you come across that are stopping people, preventing people from finding and building that inner confidence that they seek so much?
These are such great questions. The very first one, I would say the one that jumps out the most, the misconception, is that everyone else is born with confidence. That people are born with confidence, either you have it or you don't. And that's not true. Most people develop confidence over life. Maybe you were born with a greater sense of it, but even the person who, let's say, was quote unquote born with confidence still continues to have their confidence grow throughout their lifetime. Same with someone who doesn't feel that confident. The opportunity to cultivate their inner confidence happens throughout life. I can't think of the phrase, but it's not set in stone that you're either born with it or not. And if you don't have it, then that's it. Not true. You can develop it. You can really grow it and cultivate it over a period of time. The other misconception is that everyone can tell that I lack confidence. And the interesting thing about that, and I do a lot of presentation coaching as part of my work, and I often videotape people. And they will say to me before I videotape them, I look nervous, I appear nervous, everyone's going to tell. And then when they watch the video, they will say things to me like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought. And I'll say, that's right. And because the video doesn't lie, that how we come across is usually much more solid than we think. Our internal feelings, which feel like they're being amplified and sent out to the world, that everyone can see that, is usually not the case. We actually are much more together on the outside than we think. So getting yourself on videotape or seeing yourself or hearing yourself, even hearing yourself, let's say in an interview like we're doing today, I'm sure you've had people say to you, oh, I'm really nervous about doing an interview.
Sure.
And then they actually come across well.
Yes, absolutely. Or I can't stand the sound of my own voice, and then when they hear it, they're like, "Oh, that's actually quite good. I should do more of this." So yeah, I do come across that quite often.
Yeah. And another misconception is everyone thinks that other people have much more confidence than I do. It goes back to that, what we were talking about just a moment ago, which is that compare and despair. Everyone else is more confident. Everyone else doesn't feel fear. Well, as a confidence expert and coach and as a psychotherapist, I can emphatically say that's not true. It is very rare for me to run across someone who doesn't have nervousness to varying degree at some point in their life. That confidence is something, again, that is cultivated and fed along the way. And the more you do things that stretch you out of your comfort zone, and they don't have to be big things, just certain steps that you can take that stretch you a little bit, that will keep adding and adding to your confidence. And the more you have it, the more you'll enjoy it, and the more it'll radiate out.
Right. So, from personal experience, I know every single interview that I do, and I've done a few now, but at least around the 20-minute mark before my interview, I always get nervous. It doesn't matter who is coming on, whether it's somebody who's totally new to business or whether it's somebody who's really well known, really well established like yourself. I always get this nervous voice saying, "Stuart, what are you doing?" And it's going to go wrong. The recording's not going to work, and I'm going to make a fool of myself. I'm going to stumble over my words. But you just feel it and work through it anyway. And look at us now. Do I sound nervous to you?
Not at all. You have one of the most relaxed, warm, personable, on-air voices and personality that I've come across. There's just an ease to you. And I'll admit to you, there are times when I'm giving a presentation or I have to do something, I'm going on television, where I will feel nervous myself. Oh, what if I stumble? What if I drop a word? Well, I've actually seen myself on air stumble a bit. And the floor did not drop out from underneath me. And no one stopped mid-taping and went, "Wait a minute, you mispronounced that word," just like I did now. We're allowed our humanity. So the choices aren't absolutely no confidence or you have to be so confident and not make a mistake.
Yeah.
It's just that you keep allowing people to see who you are with your expertise and also your humanity. It's really important to understand that.
Exactly. And also, because it is something that I suffer from myself, I'm my biggest critic. So, I'll be at home and I'll record a video, a short informational video with the intention of putting it on YouTube. Then I look at it and I go, nah, the lighting's not right. And like you said, I stumbled over a word there. And then I'll record it again and I'll find something else. And I'll just keep on doing this, look in this pursuit of perfection. And that perfection never really comes. And you know what I normally end up doing? I normally just put out the first one that I did. And then people go, "Hey, Stu, what a great video. I really enjoyed this and fantastic. And you should do some more of these." And I'm like, What are you talking about? That's rubbish. This is, at least in my own eyes. I'm like, is everybody on, drinking something out there today? But it is, I think the more authentic you are and even leaving in those little mistakes, I think it really makes you more authentic, and especially in this age of reality TV, and no one has really a private life anymore. Everybody wants to know the person behind the business. It's not just putting the business in front now as it used to be. People want to know who you are, not basically what you do. They know that anyway. They can find that out on on the internet, do a search, they'll find out what you do, but they want to know who you are. They want to know your quirks. They want to know are you fat, are you thin, are you short, are you tall, and all the other things which make up your character. So I totally understand what you're saying there, and really. I
agree.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
You bring up I was going to say you bring up a really good point. There's a certain vulnerability that shows up when we put ourselves out, meaning whether it's a speaker or speaking up at a meeting or doing a video, as you mentioned, we feel vulnerable afterwards. And what I mean by vulnerable is we feel a little wide open that we've revealed our expertise and we've revealed something about ourselves. So it's very, very important, if you're feeling critical of yourself, to turn to someone that you trust and say, I just did this thing. Could you take a look at it? And to get positive support. Mm-hmm. And that's a crucial stage. You don't want to go to the most critical person in your life and go, what did you think? And they go, well, let me tell you. First, get positive support. And then later on, when you're feeling less vulnerable, then ask for constructive critique.
Right.
Because it's too much to take it in right after you do it. I always use this example of, let's say, an actor doing a play, and the play's, they come off stage and they say to their friend, what do you think? What do you think of my performance? And the friend says, well, you weren't so great in the second act. It's a terrible time to ask for feedback right after you've done something. So first positive and then constructive.
Right. And there's nothing worse than having, sitting in your home, your office, or wherever the place may be, and creating all this fantastic content, this imperfect content that can improve other people's lives, can change their lives, can, make them healthier, save them time, whatever the case may be, but it stays on your hard drive because of this vulnerability, because you choose not to put it out there, but it's on your computer. I think that's the biggest shame, and that's something I did for years. I used to create so much fantastic content and not put it out there for the fear of somebody criticizing me. So I think that's something, is that something that you could actually, expand on for us, Karol?
Well, I love that phrase that you just used, imperfect content. Imperfect content with your expertise, doing things imperfectly so that you allow yourself, as you said, to share your expertise, but you allow the imperfections of maybe the music isn't quite right, or maybe there's a glitch, or maybe there is something that you mispronounce. But no one is going to judge you for that because they have done it themselves. And I think perfectionism really comes, again, this is from my psychological background, perfectionism is a way to control anxiety. If we're feeling anxious, which is, I always say, anxiety and fear are cousins. Anxiety is the fear of the unknown, the fear of the loss of control. If we strive for perfectionism, all it is doing is trying to control the anxiety of being imperfect, of being exposed, of being vulnerable. And the way to start working your way through that is to take those little risks, to ask for a little more money in your job, to put out a video, to put out a podcast, to do a mini presentation, to have lunch with someone who you've been wanting to get to know at work. These little tiny actions will help with the perfectionism. It'll break the cycle.
You're right. And it's something what someone has said to me in the past. He always says to me, Stuart, perfection is not when there's nothing left to add. It's when there's nothing left to take away. And that was the catalyst. Sometimes you hear things from so many different people, and it's the same message, but you hear it in different ways. Because perfectionism is something that I've really suffered from for a long, long time. And I went on a pursuit of finding the solution to it because it just was holding me back. And eventually I came across a mentor, and he was the person that just made it click for me. He said, Stuart, perfectionism, I repeat it again, perfectionism is not when there is nothing left to take away, nothing left to add, but when there's nothing left to take away. And that just went click. And from that
it clicked
day,
for you.
It clicked for me, exactly.
Right, it broke the spell of perfectionism.
There you go.
Very constricting.
Yeah.
Perfectionism makes you immobile.
Yeah, and and has a negative effect on your confidence, which is a topic of what we're speaking today. And I could just speak for hours about this.
Yes.
It's a huge thing. I think it's fantastic that you're specializing in this area. But with that said, let's just move on to the next question then, Karol. So in spite of everything what we've spoken about so far, let's imagine there is the type of executives that you help, the individuals you work with, the organizations that you work with, and they're listening to this show right now, and they're still thinking to themselves, yeah, Karol, I get it. This sounds simple, but I can go ahead and do this myself. I can build on my own inner confidence. If that's the case, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, I say to everybody, yes, please go ahead and try and do that. But if that's the case, and there are those kinds of people out there with that intention or those intentions, what are some of the unknown pitfalls that they should be aware of if they're going to try and do that themselves?
Well, I think two things to keep in mind are that a lack of confidence affects professional opportunities. It really does. Whether or not you're the brightest person in the room, if you can't share your intelligence and your talent, then people aren't going to know about it. And if you can't share it, then your professional opportunities are going to dwindle. You're not going to be seen, you're not going to be advanced. And I don't say that to scare people, because as you and I are talking about today, there are ways to turn that around. But to really think about if your career matters to you and you're struggling with confidence, there's a direct line to you not getting the professional opportunities that you may actually deserve. And the other area, and it's very much in line with that idea, is that a lack of confidence affects your financial success. Because if you can't ask for what you want, whether it's more money or whether it's to negotiate a better price if you're buying a house, or to negotiate a better price when you're buying a car, or saying, I really deserve a raise this year because, look, this is what I've contributed toward the growth of the company. Or even I've had people, it's really interesting, I've worked with people who don't allow their own businesses to grow because they're not asking for the interviews, they're not going after the kinds of clients that they want, or they undercharge for their services. That's where that financial piece comes in. If you lack the confidence to do that, it affects you on the financial level as well, which in turn can affect your security.
And it all perpetuates from there, doesn't it? It's almost like I hate to bring in the negative side of it, but it is a reality. If you lack that confidence, for example, to charge the kind of prices, the kind of fees that you should be doing and that you deserve, then the spiraling downward effect of that is it doesn't only affect your business or your confidence, but also the people you love around you, your family, your friends, your quality of life, your health, and the list goes on and on and on. So this whole topic of confidence, inner confidence, it's massive. Oh my God, I could talk with you for hours on this.
I know. It is. It's such a big topic, and you talk about trusting what comes your way. As you know, I'm a big believer in instinct and intuition and the body-mind connection and how it really affects and can help you in business. This particular area, Stuart, just started showing up in my coaching practice. I really started to hear people talk about the need for more confidence. And I think it goes back to something that you said earlier, which is there's so much reality TV and there's so much media or social media, people living, it seems like, full out. And that started to bring up this issue of confidence because people were saying, oh my gosh, when I go on any of my social media sites, people seem to be living life to the fullest. And they started to feel intimidated by that. So the topic started showing up in my work. And then the more I focused on it, the bigger it became as far as a need for other people. It is a huge topic, as you mentioned. Yeah.
And as you were just saying that, this feeling of being intimidated by seeing your peers on social media, and especially the ones that, let's say, started off in a similar or the same level as you, and you've seen them grow, and the gap between yourself and them, and the success, the perceived success that they share online grows wider and wider and wider. That can have a huge effect on your confidence. So it's again, this whole topic of inner confidence. It's something which is so important, but I'm sure you come across some challenges, Karol, because it's not a tangible thing, right? It's not something you can put in your hands or put on a shelf. How do you get people to actually realize the importance of having this inner confidence and how much it affects their whole being, their whole life, their health, their wealth, their friendships, their relationships? How do you go about doing that?
Well, I do it in two ways. First, it's the doing and not doing. So let's just go back to social media for a minute. If you're feeling these days or one particular day insecure or lack of confidence, that's not the day to be hanging out on your social media sites, meaning you may want to do some postings, but take a break and focus on your lane. Focus on the things that you need to do to help you build your inner confidence. Don't be out there looking at who's doing what and who's making what, because again, as you and I know, we both see the backside of social media. We work with people who are trying to improve their lives, and I work with people who have one persona with me and one persona on their social media sites. So I'm here to say to people, you have to take what you see with a grain of salt and just get back in your lane and focus on your own trajectory, your own path toward what you want. Really, really important. And then I just want to give 3 areas where you can start building your confidence now in addition to what we talked about. So one is the physical. I really believe physicality affects mentality. So how you stand, how you sit, start working on simple things like your posture. Start working on, before you go into any meeting or situation where your confidence is required, fully stretching out your body. Stretching your arms to the ceiling and your arms out to the sides of the room like a star. And taking deep breaths so that you can physically open up, or whatever you do, whatever form of exercise, to get your physical energy flowing. Very, very important to help as a foundation for confidence. Is there something that you do that physical that you find helps with your confidence?
For me, it's going on a power walk. It relieves stress so much and has the added advantage of, benefiting my health as well. But yeah, it's definitely going on a power walk what works for me.
Right? So the breath is going. So some people do yoga. But again, if you don't have time to do like a actual physical form of exercise, for some reason you missed your workout that morning, then again, get into your office and stretch out before you have to go do something important that's going to require you to reveal your confidence and your expertise. I even tell people, go into the bathroom, stretch out in a stall, whatever you have to do to help you feel more grounded physically. And then the second area is to help your mind realize that you actually have something to offer. And I recommend that people either verbally say it to another person or write it down, things that they've accomplished in life. And things as big as, I worked so I could send my 3 children to college, and I accomplished that. Or I had to give a presentation. It was the very first one that I ever gave, and I did it. And to write things down, big and small, that you've accomplished in life, whether it was I went back to school later on in life, or I changed my career. When I was supposed to be an attorney, I ended up being a yoga teacher. That's an accomplishment. To write those down or share it with a trusted friend or mentor, the successes that you've had in life, that contributes and brings to mind and awareness how much you've actually accomplished. It's really important, and it's actually, Stuart, it's the hardest thing for me to get my clients to do. There's a lot of like, oh, that doesn't count, and oh, that's not such a big deal. It's like, no, that's a big deal.
Yeah. We both share an acquaintance, a very good friend, Margaret Marshall, right?
Yes.
Margaret, she's the healthy eating expert. And there was something that Margaret said to me that really resonated, and it's something that I have here on my office wall, and it's in my wallet as well. She said to me one time, she said, Stuart, because we're all so busy, we all say we don't have time to do this, we don't have time to do that, we don't have time to whatever it is, fill in the blank. And she said to me, Stuart, if you don't find the time to look after yourself, you will have to find the time to be sick. And that's one of those things that really resonated with me and started me on this quest of really looking after myself. My blood pressure's dropped by 30 points since then. I've been going on power walks. She's made a huge impact on my life. She has absolutely no idea, or she was the catalyst that made that transition for me, because I was in the phase of looking for solutions, but it was that single sentence, what she shared with me. If you don't find the time to look after yourself, you will have to find the time to be sick. Now, in the same notion, you are the inner confidence expert, right, amongst other things. But the topic of what we're speaking about today has to do with finding and building your own confidence. So with that said, and using that same model, if somebody, because I brought in the topic of it's not a tangible, a lot of people think, this is just woo-woo stuff and, that spiritual stuff, not important. I need data, or I need something that I can get hold of. I need proof, right? So with that said, if there's somebody out there who thinks along those lines, my question to you is, if they don't find the time to work on their inner confidence, to find their inner confidence, what will they have to find the time to do?
That's a great question. They will have to then find the time to deal with their frustration and anxiety. Because it will feel, what will happen is, if you stop the flow of what you're meant to do in the world, it's like you're putting a dam in front of a river. And that energy will back up and will back up. And the way I see it back up with people is through frustration and anxiety. So if there's no flow, there's just stuckness and stagnation. And the way, some of the signs that people will recognize, one is certainly frustration, but they'll find themselves irritable, negative, short-tempered, complaining. Those are all the signs that there is a lack of flow and a lack of direction for that person's talent to be seen by the world.
Wow. So the domino effect of not taking your lack of self-confidence, this inner confidence, seriously, can have devastating effects. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it really can. And I've seen people, when they start to unblock, when they really start chipping away at that dam, and that's the really important thing, Stuart. It doesn't have to be, they have to leap toward a confidence goal. Confidence can be cultivated step by step by step. And I see people transform in front of me when they take these action steps. They look physically more alive. They feel better. They stop complaining. The negative thinking starts to shift. The frustration starts to lift. And that's because they are allowing themselves to be seen and heard in the world in the way that they want. And people long to be seen and heard in the world, from small degrees to larger than life arenas. And that's what having inner confidence can do.
Let's talk a little bit about let's say some of the fears that prevent the people who you work with from building their inner confidence. I mean, we've kind of touched on it already, but if you'd just like to go a little bit deeper into that and share maybe 2 to 3 of the most common fears that you come across that stop people from building their inner confidence.
Well, one actually has to do with what we just talked about, which is this sense of it's too late for me to develop it. It's too late. I'm too late in the game. I can't do it. And again, I think if people get the sense that it's a doable, step-by-step, small actions, one at a time, plan that they can actually start to develop it. And again, I've worked with many people, both as a therapist and a coach, and I see it happen. And the thing that's really important to remember as far as developing confidence is to make it manageable and to make it a very tangible thing. So, for example, when you started going on power walks, it started to make a tangible difference in your life. And from there's a ripple effect. So one action is actually going to help other areas of your life. So speaking up in a meeting maybe would make you feel more confident that you could then ask for more money or negotiate, as I said, a better deal on a car. That one action creates a ripple effect in your life and helps with confidence overall. And the other thing is people think, well, I should be able to do this already. They read, build your confidence or be more confident. And they take this idea that they've read about or seen, and they think, well, all I have to do is study it and or decide, and things should change. And then when it doesn't, they feel like they're doing something wrong. Well, I'm such a body-mind person that it can start as an idea in the mind, and that it has to be worked through in a tangible way. And the more you start to cultivate it, the more I always say it gets in your bones, it gets in your body, and then you start to radiate confidence on a physical level as well as a mental level. And the final thing is, I always say there's big C confidence and little c confidence. So big C confidence is people think, I should have the confidence as as much confidence as the President of the United States, or as much confidence as some famous entertainer. That's what I should be shooting for. Instead of saying, I'm going to start with who I am. Because we all know people who radiate a quiet confidence based on their personality. The person who, when you walk into the room, you go, wow, that person looks relaxed and confident, and they may not be the person who's speaking the loudest or got the most energy. So confidence is unique to you. You get to have it from your own personality, and it doesn't have to be this larger-than-life energy in order to make an impact in your life and other people's lives.
So, Karol, my next question always sounds obvious when I ask it, but I have to go ahead and do it anyway, regardless. Why would somebody want to build inner confidence?
Because confidence builds visibility, and visibility leads to opportunity. And then the more opportunity you have, the more visibility you have. Again, to whatever degree that you want. If you want to be the president of your company, the more confidence you portray, the more you're going to be seen. The more you're seen, the more opportunities are going to be offered to you. Or maybe you just want to be a successful parent. The more you try different parenting techniques, the more you're going to see that you are a good parent. And the more you see that you are a good parent, the better parent you will be. So visibility, opportunity, visibility.
Okay, Karol, it's been a great interview so far. You've shared some great insight that's going to be of fantastic use to our listeners who are wanting to build their inner confidence. So at this stage, let's move on and talk a little bit about you. Can you share a lesson you learned earlier on that still impacts how you do business today? And if you could, just talk a little bit about your solution. What is it exactly? Does it have a name? Does it have a brand? And what made you come up with the idea? If you could just do that for us, Karol, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Sure. Well, my background is a psychotherapist, though I've always had an interest in helping people either through counseling or speaking. And I think that as I've healed myself, because I think it's really important, no one arrives fully formed and no one arrives fully untouched by life. And for me as a therapist, I think I went into the profession to heal myself, to heal my own issues of self-esteem and self-confidence. They call healers the wounded healers. You don't go into the business unless there's something you need to heal within yourself. And I certainly did. I needed to heal my self-esteem around body image, around how I came across, about sharing my own talents and abilities. Because, Stuart, I used to keep myself hidden. I had a lot to offer, but I didn't know how to get it out into the world. And as I started to gain confidence as a therapist and felt better about myself, the next direction I was supposed to take appeared in my life. I joined Toastmasters, which is one of my favorite organizations, to learn how to speak, because people asked me, would you be willing to speak here and there? And I thought, I want to find out. I don't know how to do it. And as I joined Toastmasters and became more confident as a speaker, I then began to speak more. And as I began to speak more, people asked me to help them with speaking. So another branch of my business opened up. And this goes back to visibility creates opportunity. And then as I started to speak and coach people in speaking, I found that they had issues that went beyond speaking, that had to do with a little bit of psychology and a little bit of coaching. And I developed a coaching practice and then thought I wanted to write a book and was able to write 2 books. And from there, more and more opportunities started to open up. But it started with me understanding and healing myself and learning that I could heal, that I could do things to change the way I felt about myself. And then the more I did that, the more I was able to try new things. So that has led me to where I am now, which is a passion for speaking, a passion for helping other people, and a passion for writing.
Okay, so in terms of your brand then, Karol, I understand you're working on a new book right now. Am I correct?
That is true, and it has to do with what we're talking about today, which is a book called Find Your Inner Confidence. And it's taking a lot of what we talked about today, a lot of things that I've learned over the years as a therapist on how people change, and putting them into a very practical, tangible, and I hope hopeful book about how people can find their inner confidence.
So it's solely around this topic of finding your inner confidence. Is that correct?
That's right. And I very specifically say inner confidence because I truly believe that when we have that inner security, that inner feeling that we're all right, then we can approach anything in life. And that doesn't mean there won't be struggle. That doesn't mean there won't be challenges. But if we have ourselves to hold on to, we can face all of those challenges and opportunities.
Perfect. So, Karol, if there is somebody out there who wants to get hold of you, they want to contact you, they think Karol sounds like the perfect person for me to be in contact with, the perfect person to reach out to for help, how would they be able to find you, Karol?
They can go to my website, and I have something I want to offer people who go to my website and get on my mailing list. So my website is Karol Ward, KarolWard.com, KarolWard.com. If you go on my website and sign up for my mailing list, I'm giving people a 5-minute stress reduction audio file. It's set to original music, and you can use it anytime during the day. It doesn't take that long, 5 minutes, where you need to calm down, get grounded, so then you can face your life again. So go to karolward.com. You'll see the sign up at the top of my website, and it'll give you this resource that you can tap into any place, anytime, in order to get more grounded.
Perfect. And I believe you're on LinkedIn and Facebook also?
I am, again, under my name, Karol Ward.
Great stuff. So, Karol, you've been a blessing today, honestly. You've shared so much fantastic information. I hate to say goodbye, to tell you the truth.
We've had such a great conversation.
We have. And again, I'm drinking my own Kool-Aid. Today I was coughing and spluttering, and, we had to take a break for me to get some water, but we persevered and we carried on. And I think we've put together a really good conversation, a great interview for people to listen to here. So with that said, Karol, thank you so much. It's been, have you enjoyed it today?
I have so enjoyed it. I hope people can hear the delight in my voice. I've really enjoyed it. I love speaking about this subject, but I also like speaking to someone, I have to say this, who's a great interviewer. You have great questions, and I like the back and forth of our conversation, which is how conversation should be.
Okay, so with that said, in terms of final thoughts, what's one thing that we may not have covered today that you could share with somebody who wants to find and build their inner confidence?
The final thing I want to share is make sure you surround yourself with good-hearted people. Really, really important to have the circle of people around you who are in your corner, who believe in you, who encourage you, and are not interested in poking holes in the dreams and plans that you have for yourself. That is really important. So look for those good-hearted people and hang out with them and talk with them as much as possible.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.